Have you ever sat in the stillness of your home and felt the echo of a laugh that once lit up the walls? The kind of laughter that flowed freely with someone who understood you deeply, not just your joys, but your fears, your flaws, your silences. And now, though they no longer walk beside you, their absence lingers in the quiet, like a familiar melody that ends too soon, but never quite leaves your mind. Maybe you've told yourself, this is just how love looks after 60, a little quieter, a little lonelier. I used to believe that too, until I discovered something that changed everything. There's a new kind of love waiting for us, one that doesn't ask us to change who we are or give up what we value. I call it companionship without compromise. As the Stoic philosopher Epicurus taught, freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. And I'd add true companionship honors that freedom. It doesn't require us to bend or blend, but to stand wholly as we are, inviting another to do the same. This isn't about sacrifice. It's about alignment, the kind that brings calm instead of conflict, the kind that feels like coming home, not to someone else's house, but to your own heart, now shared freely. Hi, I'm Vernon, and in today's video, I want to share with you 3 truths that make this kind of connection not only possible, but powerful. These truths don't come from dating advice books or algorithms. They come from lived experience, from losing, healing, and choosing again. What feels like the closing of one story might, in truth, be the quiet opening of another one, written with more honesty, more clarity, and more self-respect than ever before. Before we start, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications, because the journey to love without compromise deserves to be shared, remembered, and honored. Now, let's dive into the first truth behind finding companionship without compromise, and why so many of us unknowingly trade authenticity for connection after 60. Understanding this can help us unlearn the patterns that no longer serve us and open the door to deeper, more genuine love in this new season of life. Truth number 1. We mistake familiarity for compatibility. For years, I found myself drawn to people who reminded me of what I had before. Their tone, their habits, even the way they made coffee, it all echoed a life I once knew. And I thought that meant we were compatible. As the philosopher Alain de Botton once said, we fall in love not with those who are right for us, but with those who feel familiar. And here's what I learned the hard way. Just because something feels familiar doesn't mean it's right for you now. Familiarity is comfortable. It makes you feel safe. But compatibility, real compatibility, challenges you to grow, to be seen, to be met where you are today, not where you were 20 years ago. A few years after my wife passed, I met someone who reminded me of the past. She loved classical music like Judith, even kept the same kind of kettle we once used. And for a time, I found comfort in that. But deep down, I knew I was chasing echoes, not building something real. I'd catch myself laughing at stories that didn't move me, agreeing with things that didn't quite sit right, just to preserve a connection that felt safe but not true. I was clinging to familiarity, hoping it would turn into meaning, but it never quite did. True companionship comes when you stop trying to recreate an old rhythm and start listening for a new one that fits who you are now. As the Stoic philosopher Epicurus once said, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. Love in this season of life begins not with finding someone familiar, but with honoring who you've become. And that's the essence of companionship without compromise, the courage to build something honest, where presence matters more than performance, and where connection is chosen, not copied. Ask yourself, am I choosing someone who truly sees me as I am today? Or someone who makes me feel like who I used to be. Have you ever found yourself in this exact moment, wondering whether to remarry and reattach your life to someone else's path, or to seek a different kind of connection? One rooted in freedom, mutual respect, and emotional presence. I'd love to know, what path did you choose and comment? Did you move toward a new marriage? Or are you discovering the quiet strength of companionship without compromise? If that hits home, keep watching. Because the second truth takes us closer to the heart of what companionship without compromise really means, not just avoiding what's wrong, but learning how to welcome what's right. When you stop choosing based on comfort and start choosing based on clarity, you begin to build something rooted not in old patterns, but in present truth. That's when companionship becomes liberating, not a retreat into the past, but a conscious step into love that respects who you are now. Truth number 2. Love after 60 doesn't mean starting over, it means starting freer. There's this quiet fear that creeps in after 60. I don't want to start over. Not again. Not after everything. I've felt it. After my wife passed, the idea of opening my heart again felt not just impossible, it felt like betrayal. For a while, I kept the second coffee mug on the counter. I'd pour 2 cups out of habit, then stand there, looking at one grow cold. I wasn't ready to let anyone in, and part of me wondered if I ever would be. As the philosopher Seneca once wrote, "Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end." It took me a long time to realize that honoring the past doesn't mean closing the door to what might still be waiting. But here's the truth. Most people never say aloud, "You're not starting over. You're starting wiser, with more clarity, more boundaries, and, often, more grace." A 2020 Pew Research study found that older adults who began new relationships later in life reported higher emotional satisfaction and lower stress levels, not because they were trying to rebuild, but because they felt more freedom to define love on their own terms. One day, I talked with my sister, 68, independent, warm, and thoughtful. She had spent years saying she was done with relationships, but then she met someone at a watercolor class. He wasn't flashy or trying to win her over. He was simply consistent, kind, and real. No grand gestures, just small, meaningful ones. Morning coffees, quiet walks, shared books. No pressure to move in. No expectation to compromise who she is. One afternoon over tea, she looked at me and said, "For the first time, I feel seen, and I don't have to shrink to be loved." That's what love can look like now. It's not about rebuilding from scratch, it's about welcoming someone into a life already rich with story. You're not proving yourself. You're inviting someone to meet the person you've become. In the words of Carl Jung, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And at this stage, you finally get to love without performance, with nothing to prove and nothing to hide. This is what makes companionship without compromise so powerful. It invites someone into your world not to fix or complete it, but to honor and walk beside it. A love not based on dependency, but mutual respect and emotional clarity. So, if you've ever hesitated because starting something new feels too heavy, too late, or too much, remember, it's not starting over. It's starting forward. And that brings us to the third truth, one that redefines what closeness truly means at this stage of life. Truth number 3. Closeness doesn't require clinging. It requires presence. At this stage in life, many of us have discovered something surprising, that the deepest connections often come not from merging lives, but from respecting space. From choosing companionship that nurtures presence, not pressure. When we were younger, closeness often meant proximity, shared routines, shared spaces, even the small rituals of daily life. But after 60, something shifts. we begin to understand that true companionship isn't about being inseparable, it's about being deeply present, even when apart. As the philosopher Thich Nhat Hanh once said, "You must love in such a way that the person you love feels free." Similarly, Aristotle believed that true friendship philia is built not on utility or pleasure, but on mutual virtue and the recognition of each other's essence. Emotional intimacy, at this stage, is not measured by how much we merge, but by how much we honor each other's wholeness, allowing space for both selfhood and connection to coexist with dignity. This is the heart of finding companionship without compromise, choosing a love that embraces presence over possession and autonomy over assimilation. It's measured in consistency, in intention, in how deeply someone sees and accepts the rhythms of your life without trying to rewrite them. As Aristotle once reflected, love is composed of a single soul inhabiting two bodies, not in constant fusion, but in mutual recognition. Presence, then, is not about closeness in space, but closeness in spirit, a shared understanding that gives each person the freedom to be fully themselves. This part reminds me about my friend John, 71, thoughtful and vibrant. For nearly 4 years now, she's had lunch every Wednesday with a man she met through a local poetry group. They've never lived together, never made it official, but their connection is unmistakable. When Lynn smiles, he notices. When she falls silent, he doesn't try to fix it, he simply sits with her in it. That's the kind of intimacy that doesn't demand labels, just presence, attentiveness, and respect. As Khalil Gibran wrote, "Let there be spaces in your togetherness." Companionship without compromise honors this. It doesn't require us to fold into each other. It invites us to stand side by side, whole, free, and profoundly seen. So ask yourself, what does closeness mean to you now? Is it someone who moves in, or someone who shows up? Because the answer might just change everything. Reflection. Is companionship without compromise the right way? So, is companionship without compromise just a comforting idea, or is it the kind of love that actually lasts? After 60, the most meaningful relationships aren't about merging, they're about mirroring. Not two halves becoming whole, but two wholes walking side by side. In the words of Marcus Aurelius, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. And when two souls, each colored by a life fully lived, choose to walk together, it is not to blend or blur, but to reflect and elevate one another. That is the quiet power of mature companionship. Clarity without collision, unity without erasure. It's not about less love. It's about clearer love, freer love, love that doesn't ask you to shrink to fit someone else's story. As Epicurus once wrote, "Of all the things which wisdom provides to make life entirely happy, much the greatest is the possession of friendship." That's what this is. Not dependency, not duty, not obligation, but chosen connection, peaceful presence, deep respect. In Stoic thought, the highest form of love is one that honors autonomy, a union where each individual maintains their integrity. True companionship, then, is not about possession, but about resonance, when two individuals choose to walk side by side, not out of need, but out of shared purpose and mutual recognition of each other's inner freedom. So I'll ask you now, have you found that kind of companionship yet? Have you chosen to remarry? Or are you discovering a new kind of closeness, one with space, clarity, and calm? What does love without compromise look like for you? And if one particular person came to mind, as you listen, someone who's been walking quietly through the same questions, don't keep this message to yourself. Share this video with them, not as advice, but as an unspoken recognition, a whisper of, "I see you, I get it, and maybe, just maybe, we're both ready for something real. Conclusion. Companionship without compromise, at its heart, is less a shift in how we date and more a quiet awakening in how we choose to be. It invites us to move through love not as seekers of completion, but as keepers of wholeness. In a world that often mistakes merging for meaning, it dares us to remain intact. To bring our full selves seasoned, scarred, softened, and say, "This is me, still becoming, still open." We've learned that love after 60 is not about settling. It's about seeing who we've become, what we value, and how we wish to be held, emotionally and spiritually. The lesson is that freedom and intimacy, far from being at odds, are in fact two wings of the same bird. One gives us the space to breathe, the other, the reason to stay. When we allow both to exist in balance, we create not just connection but a sanctuary, where truth can rest and love can last. As Viktor Frankl once said, "What is to give light must endure burning." If we've endured the burn of loss, grief, or solitude, then perhaps this chapter, this new kind of companionship, is our light. But maybe, after watching till now, you still feel that the kind of love you truly seek is one rooted in commitment, in shared mornings, a shared home, and the comfort of calling someone yours again. If so, before you take that step, there's something important you need to know. Because remarriage after 60 isn't just a return to the old ways, it can be a new chapter entirely, if you approach it with clarity and care. That's why I invite you to join me in my previous video about 5 truths you must know about remarrying after 60 before saying "I do" again. Because love at this age isn't just possible, it's powerful, if you know how to honor it. You can find the link in description. And this is Vernon. Thanks for watching this video, and see you again.